Oh, hi. nelliYOM guitars. First thing we're coming here to, VW close to Gillespie, $4.3 billion. So that is 4.3. So it's 4 point and then 9 naught. So 300 and then comma 000 comma 000. So that's 4.300 million. So 4,300 million. So really a billion is 1,000 million. But here's quite a good figure here. I don't know whether you can see it. It's a figure here. I think it says 655 TN. Now I think the 655 TN is 655 trillion. Article 50 talks meant London was at risk of losing its global leadership in the 655 trillion interest rate swaps clearing market. This is, I think you'll find this is the Financial Times. It is, I mean, I know it's the Financial Times because I understand it is. Yeah, it is, yeah. I've got another copy of this somewhere. That's a nice number to stare at, 4.3 billion. Xavier Rollet warned moving trading worth trillions of euros would have systemic impact if handled without anticipation and preparation. In other words, you got to buy yourself a pretty big suitcase. So that was my little joke. Sorry about that. He called for a transitional deal and a clear government strategy on Brexit. Uncertainty as to where we are going to end up would trigger people thinking earlier about moving jobs to give them a blah 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 right to do in Europe. Personally, and then of course there is another figure that we will see here in my little thing, which is the we'll go first with the international things. I've put here all trillion is 4 sets of 3 zeros with commas. Very important, the commas. If you're going to be doing billion, yeah, there we are, million, 600,000, like that. And so basically here I've just tried to give a bit of an idea. I've shown you that thing from the Financial Times so that you do actually realise that these figures do exist, you know. But of course if you divide that number, 655 trillion, by say 10 billion, it's not that difficult to do because you just have to knock off noughts, and I think it works out at, please let me know if I'm wrong, $65,500 for 10 billion people. Right, so there we have it here, derivatives market, 655 trillion. I think this is a gambling market. I don't think they actually make anything, unlike the VW people here who actually make cars. These figures, as used in money markets, go up in threes and put in comma, very important. Now we have the Forex. Now this Forex, of course, is really quite a little bumblebee because there is an international peace agreement, Bretton Woods, which I'm so pleased I came across that video on YouTube of what the soldiers would have seen in 1944, promised to them really, by United News, which is really almost a government, I think, American news agency. Certainly it would not have been put on the television if in the film, in the cinemas, if the American government did not agree with the thing that any large movement of currency, I think this is Bretton Woods as well, any large movement of currency detrimental to the world economy should be outlawed. So, you know, if you've got a gambling habit, it's not over $1 trillion a day. Look, don't worry, I'm not after you. If you're buying, you know, like a couple of million quid's worth of scratch cards, it's all perfectly legal. Don't panic, don't panic. You can do what you like with your money if that's what you want to do, you know. You're lucky enough, I hope you win. Right, so here we have 7. We'll start over here. This is the United States, you know, when we go zoom in on it like that. This is the United States of America. It's rough GDP, and this figure is taken from Wikipedia. Oh, Wikipedia. Have you heard of that? Oh, I think I have. I read about Elvis Presley in there. Right, United States of America, 17 trillion. This is their GDP. GDP, I think, means everything they make. Not profit, not gross domestic profit, but gross domestic product. Right, so that's the sort of thing they make there. Here we have the world stock market. Now, it has gone up. I think this was a figure I took out of the Financial Times, but only about 2 years ago. Yeah, if you see what I mean, mate, you know, like, world financial stock market, that's all lot, you know, all the stock markets, about 40 trillion. Actually, it should be a bit bigger against that, you know, that's because this one, but still, you know, it's giving you a rough idea, you know. I haven't got that much time, I have to go windsurfing occasionally. And here we have US national debt, roughly 17 trillion. 18 trillion total all world exports. Now, what this means is everything, everything that is exported from every country in the world, including Belgium, to every other country. So it's like everything we've made, sort of thing, like products, you know, to sell, and from one country to another. Everybody loves exports. 70 trillion total world GDP. Here we have what everything in the world, roughly. This figure's taken from, I think, the Wikipedia. And here we have the Forex. So yeah, the world stock market figure, that was the Financial Times. I think, can't be absolutely sure. 5.2 trillion. This is a day. Now, this is the day. Now, we must remember, this is a year, this figure here, the 70 trillion. These figures are all year, except, of course, the world stock market, that's not a year. That is just what it's valued at, you know. And, of course, the derivatives markets, or hang on, let's go back to that figure over here. The 650 trillion interest rate swaps clearing market in dollars, that is like its value. It's not, I don't think it's every day. Sorry. Anyway, here we go. Then UK public expenditure, about 1 trillion. So we're pretty small down here, about a trillion there. I'm going to use one of these lovely lovely fork here. Yeah, I have to point that out. Here we are. There's a fork. Sorry, it's not completely clean, but there we are. And I think I've managed to put in a bit of UK national debt there as well. About 1 trillion, roughly, of dollars. So that's a million. So we've gone on to the everyday, the million, 5.2 million market, and I think that works out at about $520 for 10 billion people. Then we move on here. Yeah, right. Oh yeah, this is 850 billion. This is what a guy earned last year. That was from the Financial Times, about how much he earned in a day. Same guy, I think he earned a similar amount in 1993 on the currency dealing markets when there's a bit of a problem with the euro, and it wasn't a euro then, actually. It was keeping the euro in the ERM. At the time, I think the newspaper said that was the equivalent of about 200 national health hospitals. There was also one newspaper that had a wonderful thing about you got to get all these £10 notes and stick them together, and they went to the moon and back 4 or 5 times. But really, you know, you don't have to imagine the numbers. It's, you know, actually really pointless imagining the numbers. It's like looking at a human being and trying to imagine all the cells in them. You know, it's just a number. You know, I mean, I can't imagine sort of 12 people, you know, maybe 100. I can't imagine that, definitely. 3 people, I can imagine 3 people in my mind. 3, but I can't above 3, you know, get all towards 10 and I'm confused. So if you can imagine 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000, good for you, but I can't. Anyway, Bill Gates, he gave away, I think, about 53,000 million. Oh, I think that's him there. That little black blodge that, you know, he could be 100 billion, and wouldn't the blodge wouldn't be much bigger. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so this poor sort of rock star billionaire with only 1 billion. I mean, you know, he's like a little toy. I mean, I'm afraid he doesn't even show up on the page, really. Except for maybe that little thing there. I think that's about 1 billion there at the end of my fork. All right. You know, like, actually, that bit of sort of margarine there is probably about 4 billion US dollars. Could be one day. Anyway, Forex 2002 was about 2 trillion a day. 2010 it was about 4 trillion a day. These are like Wikipedia figures, okay? 2013 5.2 trillion a day, which roughly works out, I think, at about 1,680 trillion a year. So because it and the Forex, they're moving currency around 300 days a year, or 280,000 dollars for 7 billion people a year, or roughly $800 for 7 billion people a day. Yeah, I don't know about those figures absolutely, but it's a lot. Anyway, you know, I sometimes think my maths, I mean, I did really do badly at maths. I didn't even manage to do my 6 times table. 7 I managed, but anyway. UK public expenditure, approximately in dollars, GDP, slightly less than the UK public expenditure. Yeah, I don't know quite what that means. That's pretty hopeless. But actually, we do seem to have a problem in this country, as everybody knows, where we apparently spend more than what we get. Now, the first thing to say, I think here, you see that is here. Yeah. There was £60,000, you see. It's roughly 52p for 50 million taxpayers. So when you see 260,000, that is, this number was a number of times in the this was in the newspaper about some lady costing the NHS a lot. I think it was the Daily Mail, and then 2 days later, the Sun had the same lady. I think. I mean, it could have been a coincidence. They were both coming from Africa, and they both had sort of like had about 5 or 6 children who all need to be looked after. One, it was 500,000. The other one was 260,000, but roughly 260,000 is. I'm just pointing out that for the British taxpayer, it works out at about so less than £1, about 52 pence each a year. That has actually cost them, you know, what's actually been snaffled from them. Good word, that, snaffled. Some very nice ladies in a shop looked it up for me in the dictionary while I was waiting for my free-range egg sandwich. Yeah, so here we have the NHS, about 115,000 million. This is British government expenditure. Yeah, and then this is this enormous amount of money that, yeah, the foreign aid thing that was in the Daily Mail. We've got 360 million snaffled, I think. Snaffled meaning to take quickly, the Daily Mail. And like that little red dot there is about 360 million. Well, this is 12,000 million, which is the foreign aid budget. And as you can see, this is the whole of the public expenditure there. So we're looking at this amount here, that tiny bit there, having been snaffled out of all of this, getting on for about £1 trillion, 1,000 billion pounds, right, roughly. And then it's worth saying here that on Question Time, there was a chap who is a CEO of a company. Nobody doubted him, and he came up with a figure that actually 850 billion pounds out of, I think, so it's a lovely number, 850 billion. We've got it again later. So roughly about this much, that bit, over 3/4, it actually comes from the productive, not from the financial markets or moving currencies around or the financial swaps industry derivatives. I'm sure you know. I don't know whether the insurance market is included in the productive, because obviously insurance is extremely important. So we can see 3/4 of this. Here we are, 850 billion in one day. This is dollars though, on currency which is roughly about here, about that much, on currency markets by currency dealers. In one day. That's profit against the Chinese renminbi. 2016 Financial Times. So let's see over the page. Well, not very good because there isn't anything over the page. This would put this one currency movement gain as 15th biggest GDP of a country, being bigger than that of the Netherlands in a year. So that amount of money moved is more than the whole of the Netherlands makes as a GDP, not profit, GDP, I think. Then we have about 113 billion on welfare, education's about that big, something else is 45.6, I think it's defence, and pensions, 156 billion, quite a lot, right? Good old NHS is over there. 850 billion, that day I mentioned that, there's like 200 national health hospitals. As you can see here, you've got your 115 billion. And over here, you've got your 850 billion. But I think this is a little bit small, my NHS thing. I've done it a bit smaller. I'm sorry about that. This is just to give an idea, But obviously, you can see there quite clearly that 115 billion NHS, if you're looking at a figure of 850 billion, if that was the amount lost in 1993, it's getting on for about 8 years worth of NHS, which is why I suppose that figure of 200 national health hospitals does add up. Now we get on to EU payments. Oh yeah, and if you were to think about, an average interest rate, let's say the interest rate was about 10 billion, then you should be just getting on that money, I think, 10% of 850 is 85 billion. So you can see if you had a 10% interest rate, you'd be getting about 85 billion. So like 30 to 40 billion in interest if that money hadn't been lost by the British government. Now over here you've got EU payments. Boris's UKIP is 18 billion. Well, there's a lot of 18 billions make up this 850 billion. Even if you only take it as a quarter, I mean, you're looking at a lot. I mean, a quarter of the GDP of the tax collected in that year, 1993. So it was a lot of money they lost, an enormous amount. I mean, it's a sort of figure that is so big, you put it on the front page of a newspaper and everybody ignores it. Left-wing Tories, right-wing Labour, Lib Democrats. I don't know what all that's about. Oh yeah, that's about the sort of people that got involved in, all that Brexit, which I personally think Brexit is purely and simply just a symptom of our terrible world economy. Boris, UKIP, right-wing parties, Britain First, British Communist Party, left-wing Labour, right-wing Tories, and apparently this 18 billion figure was not including money back from the European Union. And I think, what was it working out at? £1.70 a day or something per person? I don't know. Anyway, something like that. And a bit of an argument about whether it's 10 or 18 billion. But funnily enough, they have come up with this figure now that the British government has to pay 20 billion for 2 years, which is 10 billion per year, which is what the British said in the first place. Not the British, the left-wing Tories and the right-wing Labour. Sorry, that sounds a bit confusing. But the middle lot, the Lib Dems, the middle ground, said that it was actually about 10 billion. And that seems to be the thing. There's my bank accounts in my dreams. And I hope he doesn't mind me doing this. But here we have the footballer, a £90 million a year football salary. Can we just go in on that like that? And then compare it to 850 billion. In one day. Remember, this is a year, this figure. This one, the footballer here, is in a year. Now this is in a day. Okay, that's a day. profit 850 billion against the Chinese renminbi. 2016. Financial Times is the place where I've got this from. If the Financial Times is willing to say that this was all false, it wasn't 850 billion, it was actually only 85 quid, I apologise. Okay, alright. This would put, oh, I've done all that. Okay, so we sort of got, that's UK. We've done the UK bit. There's the national, international one there, sort of thing. And this, moving on, we'll just go back to this nice little 655 trillion interest rate swaps clearing market. 1 million euros. There we go. Just to show that these figures do exist. And this provokes 4.3 thousand million settlement over US emissions scandal. Right. And so, yeah, that's video 1. Thank you very much. I was